Now, Chris, put on your prediction hat. How do you think this ends for Kyrie in Brooklyn?
Well, Jen, as we all know, Kyrie puts the in unpredictable. So who knows? We got to start with that. Who knows? You can't predict with Kyrie. But if I have to guess, I'm going to say I think he ends up in Brooklyn. I do think that a lot of this, and this is a feeling of a lot of people I've talked to in the league, that this is all about Kyrie trying to bluff, the Nets to get the contract that he wants. I think at the end of the day, they will come to a compromise where Kyrie wants the 5-year max. The Nets don't want to give him many years fully guaranteed. So I think they compromise somewhere maybe 3 years fully guaranteed, something like that. And he's back in Brooklyn, and obviously Kevin Durant would be there with him. And the reason I feel that way is because, one, Kyrie wants to be in Jersey or / Brooklyn, okay? He's living in the town he grew up in. He's very happy here. He worked his way here. The only reason, when you look at his wish list of teams, which is kind of comical, to be honest, New York and Philadelphia are only on there because they're close to Jersey. He would be able to essentially stay where he wants to be. The Knicks, Philadelphia, it's very good chance they have no interest in him. The Knicks, Kyrie at best is their third choice. All right, they tried to get Jaden Ivey last night, the guard out of Purdue. Didn't get him. They're trying to get Jalen Brunson now. If that doesn't work, maybe they turn their attention to Kyrie. But they know he doesn't want to be there. They know they won't be very good if he goes there. So they're not I don't know that they give him any type of deal different than the Nets give him, if they even offer him something. Then you look at the other teams. Miami, I don't know that he'd last 3 weeks with their, Miami Heat culture and all that they demand of you. All right. And then you got the Clippers. I don't know that they're interested in Kyrie. They weren't back in 2017. They'd take him if they had gotten Kevin Durant with them. But like a lot of teams, they didn't want just Kyrie by himself. And obviously they already have a good squad with Kawhi and Paul George. And so I think that this wish list of Kyrie's, Dallas, don't know that there's much interest there. The team to watch is the Lakers. All right, and we know Kyrie can only go there for the $6 million mid-level exception. So obviously it sounds like there's no way he'll take a $30 million pay cut. But here's what the thinking is. After next season, the Lakers only have Anthony Davis and Taylor Horton-Tucker under contract. Obviously, LeBron might re-up, but still, they would theoretically have the cap room, even though they don't have Kyrie's early bird rights to go above the cap, they would have the cap room theoretically to give him a big deal. And even if they don't, other teams out there, there'll be better teams with cap space next summer than there are this summer. Because this summer, none of the teams with cap space, Detroit, San Antonio, Indiana, Orlando, they don't want Kyrie. Kyrie doesn't want to go there. And so he doesn't have much leverage. And even if he's thinking Lakers, it's a risk. Even if you think a year from now I'll get my big payday, because Kyrie's injury prone. And what if he gets injured? And he'll be 31 years old. And so he would be taking a huge financial risk to go to the Lakers. I'm told he'll consider it. But I think at the end of the day, guys, for all of those reasons, that they work something out with Brooklyn.
Go ahead, because I kind of touched a lot of what Chris said. Go ahead.
Chris, we opened the show going back and forth about how this story is wearing both of us out, but we can't take our eyes off it because it's the most fascinating, for all the wrong reasons, story in sports. I want to love Kyrie. I have loved him in the past, but he's killing a lot of my love because for all the respect I have for the many stances he takes against the grain, I love that about him. I respect that about him, even if I disagree with the stances. In the basketball context, he's killing my respect for him because this recent track record of wreckage, the end of the Cleveland, the Boston, now what's happened with KD in Brooklyn, it's hard to sell it to anybody. It's why his open market value is plunging right before your very eyes, to the point he's being delusional about his value. It's now to the point where I think a lot of teams are saying he's just more trouble than he's worth. We can't count on him. We don't know if he's going to play or not play. Vaccination notwithstanding, where's his passion? Where are his priorities right now? Does he really care about basketball? He got his ring, and it seems like he's content with that. So what exactly does he care to play for? Rings, or just because he's an artist and he'll show up, once every 3 weeks to display his art for you, right? So I'm with you, Chris. It just seems like this is heading for an impasse where Kyrie's pride is still so huge, his delusion is still so great about his overall value. I don't know that he's going to sit still for a reduced value contract of a year or 2 years with the Nets. I'm leaning toward he opts out. He takes the $6 million exception to play for the Lakers for 1 year with the promise, but it can only be a verbal because you by rule, unless you want to skirt the rules.
No, don't do that. Remember what David Stern did to the Timberwolves?
Yes.
For having that deal with Joe Smith?
Yes, I do.
It ruined them.
It was a long time ago, but it did. Okay? But you could promise him, hey, just come here and show us, that you're all in. And it could be LeBron's last year with the Lakers. It could be. I don't know what he's going to do, but it would be beautiful for Kyrie, because I believe, Chris, that with all his heart, he would like to rectify how badly it ended with LeBron. I think that sticks in his craw. He wants to right the wrong, and he said many times how he was too immature, he didn't get it, he didn't know how great he had it with LeBron. I think that would really appeal to him, even for $6 million, thinking he's betting on himself on the come for the next couple, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know how far the Lakers want to go into the future with Kyrie, but if you dangle that carrot, I think he would go to the Lakers. I think that makes more sense to me than him staying with the Nets at this point.
Well, Chris, it looks to me that Kyrie wants to work a 12-hour week but wants to pay for a 40-hour week. And the team is like, hold on, bro. Do you realize, you've averaged 35 games per year over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
We play 82. You want us to max you out. It's not what you're worth, it's what someone is willing to pay. They're willing to pay Nikola Jokic $250 million. They were willing to pay Giannis the supermax, Steph Curry the supermax.
Sure.
Kyrie, what you might think you're worth, if somebody's not willing to pay that, well, you're not worth that. And you're not paying and you've done yourself no favors by saying basketball is not the end-all, be-all. That's not the most important thing. That's not what an owner that's going to shell out $250 million to you wants to hear.
Does not.
And so I think that's what's working against him. And like you said, Chris, I'm looking at this list. And plus, even if you do a sign and trade, what the hell do these teams have besides Paul George and Kawhi? They don't want to split them up. Anthony Davis and LeBron, they don't want to split them up. Bam and Jimmy Butler, they don't want to split them up. You're not getting Luka. You're not getting Joel Embiid. So what are the pieces that you can do a sign and trade that's going to appease Kevin Durant? Because at the end of the day, KD, this is what we're not going to be able to accommodate Kyrie. We don't feel comfortable giving him 2 extra years fully guaranteed, given his history. KD will understand that KD is a businessman at the end of the day. Hell, KD wants to be a billionaire. He knows how this thing works.
He does.
And so you come to him. But I think something that bears watching for is Bradley Beal up in D.C. Now, what if you can do a sign and trade? Now, that's not on Kyrie's wish list, but guess what? Santa Claus was busy. He didn't get your wish list in time, so he might bring you something you didn't ask for. If I'm Kevin Durant, I play with Bradley Beal.
Go ahead.
I would play with Bradley Beal if I were to lose Kyrie.
Yeah.
Look, I think the Nets would love that. I don't think Washington would do it, but I think the Nets would love it. I mean, look, if you're going to lose Bradley Beal, maybe you bring Kyrie in. But here's what Kyrie doesn't understand. There are very few teams, if any, that would give him the 5-year max, or they can only give 4 years if there's another team, 4-year max that he wants. The Lakers probably would because LeBron's there, but they can't. And here's the other thing that that's working against Kyrie. This year, the Nets were 30-23 without Kyrie. They were 14 and 15 with him. And we saw what happened in the playoffs. They got swept. And over his 3 years there, they're 56%. They win 56% of the games that Kyrie doesn't play, and 56% of the games that he does play. So for all his individual greatness, and we all know he's awesome, but it doesn't correlate to winning.
No.
It's only correlated to winning when he played with LeBron. That's it. Boston got better without him, even though he's better than Marcus Smart. Teams are looking at this. So he has absolutely no leverage unless he's willing to take $30 million less and go to the Lakers. That's it.
That's it.
That is it.
I ain't doing that. I want a long-term deal. I'm not turning the long. I'll compromise with you, Chris. Okay, I want 5. I'll take 3. I ain't coming all the way down to 1. I'll do 1 year for $50 million. I'm not doing 1 year for $6 million.
And look, if he does the 3 years, all they're asking is you play ball. You do your job. If he does his job for 3 years, he'll be in line for another huge deal. So this could work in his favor if he looks at it the correct way. But there's talk that he's so upset with I don't know how true it is, but there's rumblings he's so upset with the Nets that he might go to the Lakers out of spite.
Yeah.
But out of spite, do you turn down $30 million? Do you leave your home where you've wanted to play at? Do you leave the franchise you grew up rooting for that you wanted to bring a championship? Do you leave your good friend Kevin Durant to do this? I mean, you leave a championship situation? Obviously, the Lakers would be a championship contender as well, but that's a lot to do out of spite.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.